do anything to me, so go ahead. Let it rip.
Yeah, there you go. So we are live. Good afternoon. I was almost going to say good evening. Good afternoon from America. Disclosing Uncensored. This is America in Crisis, and I have a very special guest with me, Sue Greenwald. She has a very special friend. She just did a show with him just a few minutes ago. So I'm going to be able to point some fingers to giving you some answers in ways that'll help, but to help for the better purpose of reasoning. Sue and I are going to talk a little bit about the things that everybody are questioning. What in reality is actually fact? What in reality is actually true? And we're going to try to address things like that of a particular party and person. And as you've seen that I had pre-posted on my Facebook feed of some of the scenario that I thought was a good foundation to give everybody a good idea, because I didn't know for a fact if John could come in, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and his safety and his well-being is more, to me, what I need to focus on. So today it doesn't look like he will be here, but I know he sends warm hellos to all the American people, as now he has opened up channels and he is venting and politicizing the world that we live in and letting you know and trying to share purposeful informations to open and enlighten people. And you may not agree with every part and every bit of it, but there is a divide everywhere in this world, but truth will conquer over all, no matter how and what direction we have to go in. So I'm going to start off with you, Sue. A lot of people that may not know who you are, but I do. I found you. I was researching into things for the last year saying, and then here you came up and I'm like, she's sitting with them. She's talking to JFK Junior. And right there you are. And I'm listening and I'm like flabbergasted. Yeah, I'm befuddled. I'm like, really? So, somebody actually has been able to make a friend and get close to him to help him for the good reasons, for the better reasons, no matter where it will lead us all. And not only within his book that you promote constantly, Stolen Identity, the real JFK Junior
right
is real, no matter what anybody wants to think about it. And Sue will be able to give us some content on that. And you've been doing a lot of shows with them. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you so everybody knows how to find you, because you're into healing. You're into everything that's good. You're like the light, the angel of the light. So tell us a little bit about how we can find you also, so people can further themselves into your channel and watch and view some of these shows that you're doing with some fascinating, incredible people with incredible, and this isn't the only incredible story. There's other ones. And she's holding the ticket to it. So with that said, Sue, please tell everybody who you are and how they can find you into the future also.
I was told, and my fingers pointing to the sky, to start a website, awakenstories.com, which outlined my own personal experiences. I've had a lot of interesting experiences in my life, paranormal, UFO, blah, 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 blah. So I started that, I'm going to say 2 years ago, and then I was kicked in the butt again and told to start a YouTube channel. So now I interview interesting people, a spiritual awakening, those that need their voices heard. And so I've got different categories there, but JFK Junior is one of those that I interview on a weekly basis. So I've probably been working with him maybe 5 months or so. So the channel is called Awaken Stories. All right. So it's spiritual and truth and disclosure type of information. Before I did that, I had an expo, and I did speaker events and large events, all centered around truth, disclosure, and health and healing. So I've met many of these famous truth and intel providers in person, and I've developed relationships with them. But because of the pandemic, I'm now doing the blogs and the interviews until further notice.
Great. Yeah. And, I'm going to try to post some of your videos, if that's okay with you, as far as how that is. And I also want to do something as a message. I have something that I saved here. And I thought, well, wouldn't this be really cool? We all like to see somebody sitting next to us, because everybody says, unless you can bring me Bigfoot's body, I don't believe he exists. Well, I'm not going to bring you JFK Junior's body, but we do know he is out there alive and well. And I have something that I thought would be kind of incredible to just share with some people, to let you give you some type of acknowledgement that he's talking to us. He is talking to us. So as far as that, let me find this real quick. We're not in a great big hurry here, but I've put it under a certain file because, I just do dumb things like that. And then when I go to find the file, I have to research the file in order to find it. It's pretty crazy. So here, let me see. All right, I found one. Well, I found several videos of you, which as I said, I'm going to share today after the program. So you get some attention on your channel because of all the work that you put in the past 5 months, and sharing so much great information with JFK Jr. himself. So let's see here. All right, we're just about there. But I found this fascinating, and when I hear his voice, it's like, this is greatness, because then the public hears it. So
the name my mother and father gave me, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. I am exposing our government for the most heinous crimes ever: pre-planned first-degree murder, identity theft, and on and on and on, people. I'm going old school. We live in a regime now. The United States of America, our government, has been overthrown with criminals, the worst criminals, in their secret societies. I wrote a book. Our government would not help me. Matter of fact, they are turning a blind eye to my story. I wrote a book, Stolen Identity, Unveiling the Real John Kennedy Jr. by John Kennedy Jr. Our social media, blocked, shadow banned, taken down, hindered from getting the story out. Our media, the same thing. I don't care if it's Fox News, CNN, ABC, all of them are run by these big businessmen. Big business people. We now live in a regime because the United States of America has been taken over. What's next? Who's the big people behind the plan? Expose. This story is the biggest story this world has ever seen, and is being denied. My story. I was the son of an assassinated president, born in the White House. What you don't know is the rest of the story. They did not stop killing, just covering up the murders to this very day. God.
So I wanted to play just a little bit of that, so we don't get in as much trouble, because the longer the trouble, probably the longer the jail sentence in Facebook. Nevertheless, I thought to bring at least his voice and his own thoughts. So you just heard a cut and stream that John himself released to all of us, to everyone. And he's not reaching enough. He wants mass numbers to know that he is there and that he is well. And it's going to be our job to do that for him, to assist him and to help him. And I'm so pleased that I could make contact with you, Sue, who I know you're a very good friend of John. And one day maybe he'll come and he'll sit with us all and we can have a conversation. But in the meantime, you hold the reins. And that's great. That's fine, because somebody is getting it done. but we need to get more information out there. So one of the things we do know is John has his book out there, and it was released, in case people don't know that John had a book published, Stolen Identities. There it is. And this is the lady that has brought a lot of this story forth, Sue Greenwald. She has a channel. She needs to be known as well. She's trying to help many people with many different types of stories, the same as I do, whether you had an encounter or a paranormal or you're, whatever the scenario is. Helpful people help people, and that's what's important. So one of the things that are going to be probably at the pinnacle of all this, and I think you would agree with me, is how do we know that John is John?
Well, I was born intuitive, so I knew immediately he was telling the truth. And usually when I watch an Intel channel and they say, "Oh, I'm JFK Junior" and all that, I know immediately that's not truth. So that's really easy for me. But what I would tell your readers to do, or your viewers, I'm sorry, what I tell your viewers to do is either use muscle testing or a pendulum and test every point in the book. Test every point to see if he's telling the best truth he can. All right. And I get a yes. But the way I got to John in the first place was a friend of mine, King Smarty, who I also interview on my channel. I don't know if you saw any of the videos, but for those new viewers and those that want to see it, I would say start in the December 2023 area and go forward. And we have them indexed, and you'll never find more unique and truthful information out there. He's the highest source. So he told me that John was out there. He gave me the contact info, and John and I gelled. And so I've been interviewing him ever since.
And he's given you some quite fascinating information. I mean, he goes off on a lot of different things. Yeah. And, a lot of people would feel like it's a double-edged sword coming at them because we're looking at a reality where reality is a fabrication of reality. We're led, and we have always been led. We are taxated into the grave from the time of birth to the grave and beyond, when we become our children's problem, when there is an inheritance system going on. So it continues and it overlaps. And this is in the same way how the political system was developed and the agenda of it was developed. But what's worse is as he has spoken through his own words with you on your shows, that we have very nefarious people amongst us with an agenda that is to only benefit them. It seems like he lost, I said inheritance, because even in his case, he was at a loss for much of his family's equities by people. And again, that's where the double-edged sword comes in, because some people who we entrust right now were somewhat involved within it. And some who admitted that they were in it, but now have moved on from it. We don't know if factual things like that really are what we are seeing, but we can speculate that there may be a 50-50 chance that maybe somebody is turning good for the betterment of humanity. But until they could unequivocally prove that, and as to now, all we have are words more than anything, and factual documents and information that is backed up. And now that John's even bringing out, and excuse me for saying that, John JFK, I don't know, how does he like addressed anyway?
He likes to be called John. John was his double. So he was a double, took over his identity roughly at age 10. And that's who we saw on the cover of People magazine, in the TV. We think John was him. Not true. That was his double.
Right. And there's a lot of factual pictures out there. I did post one where he was, I think, with Doris Day. He claimed to be calling her mom on set because they developed a closeness. So in Hollywood knew who he was. They knew who the real man was. And he was welcomed around them. But maybe not for, to me, it puts me in a place of thought only, as in a place of thought that here he is, he's with them, he's in movies, he's in Hollywood, he's attached to musicians. I mean, he was all over the place, and no one knew it was him, that it was existing. It was always a new name, or as you said, a double. Right. And there are many doubles, and if they can't, it's kind of like the alien syndrome thing, in a way. If you can't create a double, physically change it to look like a double. And we learned that even with Russia and extraterrestrials in the early days of the 40s, that they were taking children, let's say children that had medical issues, and they were using them as guinea pigs to make them and transform them to look into little 3-foot type starved beings that they actually mutilated their bodies to get them to look like that. So, you know, but in John's case in Hollywood, I mean, he was at Adam 12, Green Acres. I mean, he made lots of mentions to things that he did, but this other gentleman was also like, what, 7, 8 years older than him? You could correlate that age, puberty, to a child, that it wouldn't be him. But yet, the American people lost the focus of putting that connection together. As an observant, I try to always try to do things like that. What makes this not line up? What makes this not typically look factually true? And here, he's trying to explain to everybody step by step in many ways. And would you believe that he's doing a good job carrying that part out? Because I know he says he was a little dissatisfied about the book.
Well, I think he's doing a great job because he's being censored just like we are, right? And everything he's done has been taken down. The numbers have been skewed, all of that. So he is doing a great job. And remember, his life is under, threatened. He's being threatened. So he's doing a great job. And the book is it's an easy to read book. So I burned through it in one night, but horrible content. What he went through was horrible. But this basically outlines the basic structure of his life, all right, from age 3 till the present time. And then, of course, what he's doing with me is filling in the gaps. He knows names, he knows dates, he's witnessed it, and he's lived through it. Murder, organized crime. Remember, this is the son of a president, a very powerful person who was murdered in broad daylight in front of everyone. And so when John was a child, he lived in the White House. He had privilege. He had maids, nannies, Secret Service. So he was only 3. But at that time, he had people taking care of him. He was flown here. He was flown there. And that kind of lifestyle continued for a while. So, he's just a little kid. He doesn't know any better until he was placed in this witness protection household, which was really organized crime. He witnessed murders. Every crime you can think of, he saw it or sometimes participated in it. All right. So he grew up around that. And then he'd be there for a while, and then they'd take him to somewhere posh, and he'd spend some time with his mother. And basically, the bottom line of the story is they literally killed every family member, every Kennedy, every Onassis family member, and replaced them all with doubles, and sometimes multiple doubles. Okay. Mm-hmm. So those people's jobs were to take over the identity of the person that they were to become. And some are still in place. So that's a big story. And the government is the one that helped with that. Government and organized crime. Huge story that needs to be uncovered. He's not the only one that this happened to. So he was in several Hollywood movies and shows, and he's listed them for us. He's shown us clips and all of that. And what happened is after a while, they put a double in for him there as well and gave him a different name there. So he's had multiple names. He's been shuffled all around. He's witnessed murders. Like I said, last I talked to him, he said there was over 80 that he witnessed. He lost count after that. Boom. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
It's crazy.
When you look at the number, for one individual to have to deal with that, I mean, I could imagine the anxiety, but at the same time, he has willfully spoken about the drugs and the different scenarios of the dumbed down situation and the mind control systems. He talks of 2 projects of how they manipulate and how they bring people in from these youngest ages. A lot of people have looked into some of these also these
Yeah, so he was under MK Ultra. So they
Right.
did it with him two ways. They literally cut a hole in his skull and put a physical implant in there, a tracking device. He had more than one, of course, but that's a pretty big thing. But then he was forced to witness horrific images over and over and over, which kind of breaks your, like, I don't know if you want to call it soul or spirit or whatever, but then they put them under a hypnotic state, and they probably gave him keywords, is my guess. So he was under MK Ultra many times. He also had a handler, which appears throughout his book. The guy's name was Wayne, which was not his real name. I'm getting that he's no longer here with us on Earth, but Wayne took him all over. Okay, so he'd be in bed. John would get roused out of bed, and then he'd go and do something in Hollywood, or he'd go and they'd hide a body, or they'd go and do some crazy nefarious thing. It was just like odd and unsavory, in my opinion. But John trusted Wayne because he did save his life multiple times. So one other key element of his story, he was poisoned, shot, knifed, like beaten, kidnapped, tortured, like you name it, multiple times. And he's still here with us. So it's my belief that he was saved for a reason. He's got a big mission here, and he's just ready to step into it. So he had to go through all that pain and hardship because now he knows what they all did. He knows how it works. He knows the names. It's a big mission he's got.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that he's in that place. But I have a very sad spot in my being and soul because of what he's gone through. Because I mean, I believe even his brother died in his arms, and I believe that was something that he has spoken about. And I think for anybody just to live that alone is hard. He doesn't even know where his mother is where his mother's buried. He has no knowledge to a lot of things, but in some ways, on how he is brought up. And again, guys, if you don't know, Sue Greenwald here has done multiple interviews with John. And he says a lot, and we're going to point you back into that direction at the end of the segment of what we're going to do here, so you can be able to find some of these live feeds that she's done with him. But when we look at this too, it's almost like there's a nefarious, even though they kind of in one way pamper protection to you and guidance, they involve you into the darkness of the secret of where it pulls you in, like as if you participated, even unwillingly. You were there, you're here, you're part of us. And he's never chose to go down that path, and he was rescued. And now he's doing so much more. But the elements even so much bigger when you go through some of the significances and the proofs that go beyond the proofs of just using a pendulum in a book, and the GoFundMe for the DNAs and the things everything that he's tried to do. But everything has been an obstacle, and everything has been a fight. And here you may even say to yourself when you see some of these pictures or when you watch him on Sue's channel that, my God, I seen him standing behind Trump. Not always the truth, but Sue, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I wasn't actually going to talk about Trump, but if you look at some of his childhood photos, you notice like the tilt of his eyes, his general facial appearance. He still has that. And someone had created a thing with half of his face and half of his father's face. It's almost a perfect match. They look exactly alike. Now, that's not proof, but let's consider this. If our government is capable of killing a president in broad daylight and doing all this nefarious stuff, which we already know, there's way more out there than we've even talked about yet today. What makes you think that a DNA test is going to prove anything? What makes you think any lab is going to be honest enough and independent enough to really give true findings at this point? Now, they might down the road, but right now they would, it'd have to be anonymous. It would, it seems like it's too easy to control the findings at this point. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I do. And, years back, and I don't say this name because I support it, but Howard Stone had a guest on. This is 15 years ago. And the gentleman who actually was in charge of the car after President Kennedy was shot actually found a chunk of skin and hair and kept it. And he was on the Howard Stern show. I wanted to point that out to you because I know if I did some of my history work on that, because Howard is right across this kind of the street from me here. It's amazing how many people are in Pittsburgh. It's just amazing. The Hines family, when you get into the politics and the scenarios of who's and what's what. So anyway, I could probably find that name because I think that's the only documented true documented DNA sample that exists. And then you ask yourself too, this is going off into a different scenario. Why was Ancestry.com created? And why did the government and government now have involvement of a purchase of $4.7 billion for all the records and documents? Is it to protect and hide the cover-ups and the bloodlines, or, you know, because this story is so huge. And now with John coming on, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., it's going to change the world. It's going to change the world, but people are going to have to be open to it to hear the truth. And that there, we're going to have to re-educate people. You and I, people like us, and him himself, are going to have to re-educate people because of how we have been groomed over the past 10 years through elections and other processes of other peoples and leaderships. This is going to get quite dark. And some people are going to say it's going to be even more further from the truth and highly more impossible. But when you have somebody that lived it, that knew the information, that actually had a mind, an intellect that was almost like photogenic, that to remember every aspect, because they were controlling his life. He could keep nothing. They were dragging him from point A to point B. He had the focus on memory. And I commend him for that. To go through such social anxieties and holding your brother till death and witnessing all these other nefarious things, as well as meeting people like where he said he met Lady Gaga and he's had dinner with the Queen. I mean, they allowed him to have at certain times, but for what structure? When I think that, for what purpose and structure was he allowed to go into these certain areas of things, and as well have one of the most mysterious artifacts on the presence of the earth?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, he has been traumatized. There's no question about that. If you read the book, you'll understand why. Again, kidnap, torture, witness to murder, witness to child trafficking, all sorts of nefarious, crazy things, friends disappearing, doubles appearing. Like, how would you, like, even one of those would be traumatizing to the average person. And he's lived a whole lifetime full of it. Lifetime of betrayal. Like, so he tells stories about he'll check into a motel or whatever. He wouldn't even stay there because people would come and try to kill him at night. He would sleep out in the bushes or in his truck or whatever. So that he was always able to be tracked. They were always in control of him and what he did. They were always like confusing him. So it's a pretty horrible story. And when I first read the book, I pretty much cried the whole night. And then I had to read it again to interview him with any sense of what actually happened. So the two big questions I get is, you know, the person that was his double, the guy we saw on People magazine, the one we're calling John, basically was killed in the plane crash. Okay, so our John Jr. was also in that plane crash. People don't know that. So basically, they were trying to kill both of them in one fell swoop. And that failed because our John knew the plane was going down and put on a life jacket. I think he broke his arm. He got out, and Carolyn's sister got out. But she went back to the plane, and the plane pulled them down. So they all died.
Right.
He survived at least 5 plane crashes. Who does that, right? But what he tells about the story is he was out in the ocean for a really long time. A Coast Guard cruiser came along and rescued him. But he said the captain was very nervous because he was told to throw him back overboard. All right. Isn't that crazy?
That's
crazy. All right. So that is the
Crazy
big,
isn't the word for it, but yes.
yeah, that's a big story. So why did they try to kill the one we saw in the public eye, the one we'll call John, the imposter? Why did they try to kill him? He wasn't a good guy. He was organized crime in New York City. He basically, it's kind of a complex story. He basically killed Jackie's double. He poisoned her and she died. And they knew it. And evidently in organized crime, you don't kill one of your own, right? And so they got back at him by killing him and his wife. Evidently the wife was not female. So, you know, again, identity, switched identities. But our John lived, the real John lived to tell this story. He was in other plane crashes he told me about. He was in the plane crash for Leonard Skinner. And again, they were killed. Their plane ran out of fuel, right? And crashed. And he lived through it. Like, that's odd to live through 2 plane crashes. But then he lived through a helicopter crash. Like, he was, they tried to kill him time after time after time after time. And he's still here because his mission is to tell this story. Now, he couldn't be here today, so I'm kind of like paraphrasing, putting it in my own words. But if you watch the interviews that we've done and read his book, join his channel and listen to the words come right from his mouth. He tells different stories all the time. So he was often under MK Ultra, but he'll name Hollywood actors, political figures, others that have done super nefarious things under MK Ultra as well. So very interesting stuff.
Yeah, very, very interesting because it's bigger than what people think.
Yeah.
But you know what? Manipulation is everything. We see it with media and more, and we see it in the public domain. That's why I think we watch everything that we see that comes from Hollywood. We learn to like everything we hear that comes across the FM channels on radio or series or whatever these, you know, whatever people choose to listen to now, the YouTube music channels and so forth. But when you listen to the words and you've learned about who these people are, how they act, what they're all involved in, it doesn't matter. And he knew who they were. He was inside it, visualizing a lot of what was going on, and he talks about it. So that is impressively major of knowledge and influence for everybody to learn more about it. But again, as you said, they create duplicates. And I know you don't want to talk about certain things, but it keeps coming up. Even one of the things that came up, I think I sent you a picture, and it's been going viral. What's going on the East Coast beachfronts? There is a few airplanes have been spotted, and people from the ground taking pictures, saying that JFK Junior is alive. Q. Is this part of that diversion in his mind, or has he made any comments? Does he know about it? Have you shared any of that with him that I was able to share to you, that this is starting to take place and go on? Is this that disinformation to cover up the information? Because the truth is right now here in front of us all.
Disinformation and distraction. Okay, so Q came out in 2017. We were supposed to trust the plan, trust the plan, trust the plan. It's been how many years? And what plan have we got? Have things gotten better or worse? I'm at the point where I don't believe, Q is a positive thing anymore. I don't really listen to it. Like, everyone's decoding it and trying to prove this and that. I'm not even listening to what they're saying. I'm doing what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. And John is of a stronger opinion. So John,
I'm sure it's a verbal opinion.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm with him too, because for the past 4 years, I said to people, I says, if you think you are the cure, there is no savior. It is them to keep you compliant somehow, to make you think that some greatness is going to happen, that there's going to be a new back in the White House, and all this stuff that it has never come to light, never come to fruition. And guess who the ones are that were pushing it all? The ones who all had the capital gain.
Yep.
They had all the capital gain. We're going to tell you buy gold. We're going to tell you buy silver. We're going to tell you to buy my new jockstrap and gym shorts, And what did you get from it? You made them richer every time you listened to that hogwash story that they gave you every day. And where are they now? And did they take it back? No, they regurgitate on it another way, bring on another guest, and make another special person. And when that special person comes, what made the change for anything? The special person is the fact that this man is alive, living amongst us, and we need to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, his is not the only story, but it is a very big story. So again, president shot in broad daylight, family murdered. So let me talk about that for a little bit.
Go ahead.
It was 1975. John was 15 years old, and he was living with his mother and Aristotle in Bullhead City, Arizona. So they wanted to live a quiet life. Okay, they bought a house. They were trying to set John up, with a job as a mechanic or something. He likes to work with his hands. So he was out painting for gold, and he sees a bunch of young children. So let's say age 12 down, and they all have like golf clubs, baseball bats, like clubs, okay, in their hands. And they said, you can't come with us. Well, he was busy anyway, so he didn't care. They go down and kill Aristotle. Okay. Now, John doesn't know that because he's painting for gold. He goes down and sees the body. These Hollywood kids had to do that to prove themselves. And now they've become famous actors. Okay. So they're in the club, if you know what I'm saying. All right. So that was the first part of 1975 for him. A few months later, I don't remember the details. He's out in the garage doing something. He hears gunshot. He runs out. His mother is on the ground. The real Jackie shot dead. And by federal agents. So they put him in the back of the car and they say, we want you to sign a confession that you did this murder. And he wouldn't do it. So another agent came in and busted him out and took him back to his witness protection home, which again was organized crime, but at least he was safe for a while. But can you imagine that? And we don't know about it?
Yes, I could imagine that. And we don't know about it because it seems to be part of our everyday life.
Right.
Where we're imagining that and seeing things, it just fits the puzzle. It's the big piece. It may have 100 other pieces that go into that one little piece, but it's the big piece to that puzzle, a part of the truth and disclosure, because it's everywhere surrounding everything. And it just, as you said, when you talk the 1975 scenario, wasn't there a point in time, though, before, if we could go a little bit earlier than that, there was an early point in time where Secret Service put him and initialized him into the programs at an earlier age also, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So he was literally kidnapped multiple times, beaten, kept in a dog cage, kept in a bathroom, like a nasty bathroom with a dead body in the bathtub. Other times he was kidnapped, and guess who kidnapped him? Federal agents.
Agents, yeah.
And they basically extorted millions of dollars and then let him go or whatever. So whenever they wanted money, that's what they would do. And of course, he's traumatized each time, right?
It's like they needed hush money for a reason to cover up something else. And how do you do it? You go to the gravy pond, because even Jackie Gleason and Nixon did that. In a day and time where there was the water scandal, let's just kind of say it like that, in a gentle way, because you can't say anything and feel safe about it. But when it came down to it and Nixon got in trouble, he went to Jackie because Jackie made three kind of offers to the public. One was for 10,000, one was for $500,000, then one went for $1 million. And it was about aliens. So anytime there was a structure for money and they didn't know where and how it was going to come from, and they knew everybody in the world was watching everything they were doing, they had to go to some type of gravy pond that they had a thumb of control over, or a friendship of control, and they give them what they want. And in turn, you give me the money so we can blend it out to keep these people off our back, which is mafia. It's a solid area that goes back to the Roman Catholics over 2,000 years old, before the Templars and much of the other things that were established into everything of this gravy train that built America. Because somebody was involved with it, political was involved with it, leadership was involved with it, laws were involved with it. And as long as everybody got fed some of the money, it became
Right. Right.
the plan.
One other thing John has talked about is not only was his family murdered, okay, so all the Kennedys were murdered.
Right.
And replaced with doubles. Okay, so that's a and as are the Onassis family, but basically their funds were then drained by those doubles. So the doubles would somehow siphon the money off to organize crime. Okay, so those estates were like that sold off. The money has been gone for years and years and years. So it's a way for them to get the money, to get the control of the estate, etc.
Right. And many estates have been just basically you washed out. I mean, completely drained dry.
Yeah.
And that's another way of how they destroy your life. You know, totally. in front of the world without the world seeing it.
Yeah.
It's a mafia type of scenario situation that they use over and over repeatedly. And I think everybody that's been anybody who wants to be somebody or is somebody have all used that system within it because they all belong to it. How do you get out of the system? Is it possible that you, because you say you can, you did and you will, or you could? Who knows? But the point is this: we're still seeing it in today's life too. Right. And it's not superficial. It's a reality of what we have. But, you know, again, some of these things that are going to be so fascinating to the public, you guys got to get this book, Stolen Identity. And is it the real guy? It seems so. All I'm going to say is nobody comes out to the world with the information that he has and could deliver it in any better way to enlighten us to truth. So 1975, so we kind of hit like the earlier stage in 1975, and we're going up through. He talks about having dinner with the Queen, with his mother. Was she still present, alive, or was she a double at that time?
This is when he was a boy. Okay, so I don't know how old, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Oh, he was that young. Okay.
He was a little boy. He went to, have dinner with the Queen. The Queen gave him some sort of a ring, which was later taken away from him. And again, remember, part of the elite club, flying all over the world, meeting rich and famous people. We can't even comprehend what the people he knows. You know what I mean? She's the one that initially got him into Hollywood. And then Wayne, the handler, organized a lot of that. And then after a while, they kind of kicked him out of Hollywood. And I'm not sure what that reason was, but they put another person in his place that was much older. So his name in Hollywood was Richard Steele. He was in all the older shows, Green Acres, Petticoat Junction. He was in some Doris Day movies. What was that? Mayberry RFD or whatever.
Yeah, Andy Griffin Mayberry.
Yeah. Those kind of shows. He was the little boy in many of those shows. I've seen some of the clips.
Opie's friend.
You can see the facial features are the same as in his younger pictures. So you know it's him. And then roughly age 10. Okay, again, remember he's been shuffled around doing all this stuff. He's just a kid. He's in school in New York City. So he didn't go to school steadily like, say, we did. And his imposter, John, whose name happened to be George, is also in the same school. John had a ring that was because he killed someone. So he was in the mafia, that was his initiation or whatever they call it. And there's a picture of them comparing rings, a ring from the Queen and a ring from his kill, if you will. All right, trophy ring. All right, so our John Kennedy was taken out of that school eventually, and the other one took his identity. So that's kind of how that morphed. It wasn't done all at once. It was done very gradually. And again, our John, the real John, was traveling all over the world, sometimes living with his mother, sometimes living with his mother's double, sometimes living with that organized crime family. So a very confusing, traumatic, crazy childhood.
Yeah, very much so. And then going through this brainwashing system of MK Ultras
Yeah,
and some of the earlier process stages, which were even more dark and nefarious,
yeah,
implants into the brain, subliminal thought. I mean, we think of this now that they have ways to actually pick up on our thought patterns that identify us through ANI. And I fear ANI because it really comes down to whose hands on the button. And what's more dangerous, a nuclear bomb with your finger ready to press it, or ANI saying just wipe out the world with the biggest hurricane that's ever crossed the Americas? You know what I mean? Because we're going through that. It's just it's wild and it's bizarre. Going further though, he also went into Hollywood and music. So
yeah.
as you said, he was in a plane crash with Leonard Skinner. How did that? I mean, if you don't mind, if you don't know, it's perfectly fine. I know he may not have shared every detail. How did he just? Did Leonard Skinner know who was on the plane with him?
I don't think so. And I honestly don't know that answer, but he became friends with the band. So
Right.
he did all sorts of things. Like in one of his, one of his stories was about the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks. He was moving bricks or rocks or something on the island or whatever the set. And he's the one that he had blood on his hands. His blood is on Wilson, the volleyball.
Wilson.
Yeah. So that like just these little tidbits were so interesting, but somehow he knew about Leonard Skinner. So we were talking about it and I said, and look how they ended up because of the plane crash. And he goes, yeah, I was on that plane. And I'm like, what? So he was in the back of the plane. He said the band members were up in the front practicing. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how it came about, if it was an announcement, but somebody said, we're out of fuel. We're going down. And they went down with the plane and he lived. Now, isn't that crazy?
It's more than crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that someone, again, there's a greater picture here that's protected him throughout all these incidents of so close, casualty, catastrophic, life-threatening, and yet he remains here.
Yeah.
So there has to be a lot of something of what we don't understand in this life that is surrounding him, giving him protection. But I do know that he's also still had some other health issues and stuff as now he's getting a little bit older. He's still, I mean, he's a human being. He's been through hell, shot, knifed, threatened, killed, drugged, dog cages. I mean, this, how can anyone out there even imagine these circumstances if you had to go through them yourself? So for him to do what he's done, he's a rock star.
He's been kept in poverty as well. All right, so he's never been able to own a house. Like every time he's owned land or whatever, it's been taken away from him on purpose. That keeps him unsettled, right?
Right.
To have a home. He'd get a job, he'd have to leave it because of threats or some crazy something, whatever happening. So he's never had like a lot of stability ever in his entire life, right?
But even his education is very weak. He has to rely on other people.
Right.
Because he doesn't know how to, he can correlate in speech to you and I sitting here having a conversation. But for him to focus on, like, even he needed help with the book. He needed help in jobs. I mean, he relied on other people. That is so sad. And as you said, yes, a very crucial point that a lot of people don't think about. But if you take everything that somebody builds up and owns, even if it's for 6 months or 3 years, and then suddenly you find yourself moving again, what does that do? It just puts you further back on the back burner from the world. And that's why we need to create that path. But I think I did hear something that somebody wrote something to me that he was able to just buy. Did he just buy a Harley?
Yes. And so here's the story. Somebody wrote a very negative comment about that Harley. It's not a new one. Okay. I think he said he paid $7,000 for it. I don't know the number. It was used because he said, I asked him several times, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Like, are you looking to get into politics? Are you looking to become rich and famous or whatever? And he goes, no, I'd really like to go fishing and get a Harley and just ride my bike. That was his goal. He wants to be left alone. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was given, I guess he got back disability. All right. He is a veteran and blah, 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 blah. They've denied him his claims. So he got a check. I don't know the number. I think it was about 9,000. He spent 7 of it. And again, I don't even know if that's a correct number right now on a used Harley. He's ecstatic. All right. So he's like living very poorly, no food. You know what I mean? He's living very lean. And that's his whole life.
When I see him broadcasting, it reminds me of a pull trailer.
Yeah. So he lives in, I think, a trailer or trailer park in Arizona. He just wants to be left alone. Okay. He wants to get his story out there. And one of his goals is he just bought the bike, and then his girlfriend sold her house, and they bought this trailer where you can put the motorcycle in it, and it has like a bed in it, like all in one trailer. And his goal is to take this trailer across the country and put his book on his dad's grave in Arlington. He's planning that sometime this summer. We don't have a date yet, but that is his goal. And he wants to get 1 million signatures on that trailer. So he has big stickers of the cover of his book, this picture. Right. So yeah,
that would be fascinating if he could do something, and I could help him to call out to some of my I have a lot of biker friend people. I really do. And I have a lot of groups, Facebook groups. I had nearly around 100 that I've tried to give to other people to get involved, to build up a relationship for goodness and fight and whatnot. And if we could just get, 1 million of those bikes to follow him there into it,
cool. Yeah.
That would probably, be one of the most tearful, joyous moments that he could probably ever receive in his life, as well as being the most protected. And he could count on that and actually have a pleasant time.
Enjoy it without fear of murder or being hurt. So he's been hurt a lot. He hasn't been killed, though. They've tried to kill him, but he's still here, like I said. So there's a higher purpose for him. And his purpose is going to be to tell this story with names. Okay. Now, many of those people may not be alive at this point. They'll still be punished in another way, though. So very interesting stuff.
Yeah. I really hope for all that to actually, as we leave this room to the next, that there is something up there that they will have to go up and face. But in some ways, this satanic belief is that life will continue just as life does here. Almost like me, I used to do shows on, paranormal and remote viewing and dream states and things like that. And I find myself, not to get off this way, but I find myself sometimes wondering and thinking, is what we go to in the other land of the other place when our time comes, like so much of a dream that we experience now? And that is just kind of like the dream thing is kind of like, get used to it, because this is what you're going to live like. So if you want the answers, maybe they're closer in your own mind, and we realize that we are actually experiencing that type of scenario already.
Right. Well, according to King Smarty, when we dream, it is not just a random bunch of images. We're literally in other, we'll call them realities or dimensions. We're really experiencing that. So sometimes our dreams seem very vivid and lucid. I love those because they usually give us content and information, but sometimes the dreams are like crazy and disjointed. Those are reality as well. Right. So
yeah, we're going through multiple segments of dimensions, like filtering through them, and something is this way in this one, something's in this way in this one. And as we come back to normality, where we are and our eyes wake up. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I kind of get where you're totally at on it. Now, Smart, doesn't he make also some jewelry and stuff?
Yes,
like
he does.
Jewelries.
So I don't know if you can see this, but like I have the flower of life on. This is a rainbow one, and his other, I have some rings. I have the pithalum ball right here. I'm sorry, my camera doesn't seem to, like, first of all, I've got a mirror image, so I'm doing a bad job, but that's the pithalum ball, and this is the pithalum cube. So if you want to know more about Pithalum and who she is, of course, we talk about it a lot on King Smarty's interviews, but that's from my interviews with David Adair. So
Yes.
Pithalum will be a interactive search engine. So kind of like a Jarvis from Iron Man. All right. So many people can already connect with Pithalum with or without the ball or the cube or whatever. But I physically love them. Like I like to touch it, and they're beautiful. So, but you can get lots of content from Pithalum without the product.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I get it, because he's someone that shares the information.
Yeah.
So when you do that, it helps influence a product too, and makes people understand them. It's not like just buy. Here's why, and this is the benefits.
Right.
And if you feel that, and then it's up to the person. Well, this may help me. And if they feel that this may help me, that's why you got to learn who Sue is and learn about her guests. And she mentioned David Adair, another rock star out there. He's been all over the world, basically doing lectures, speakings, and on your show, a fascinating individual. I think I believe he still holds the record for the fastest rocket ever built. I mean, just a scientific genius until he opens up and starts to talk. And then you're like, wait a minute, really? Because he likes to make jokes in good ways.
He's a regular guy.
Yeah. He really is. And I think when Linda Bolton Howe and them used to sit next to him, they often wondered, like, he did all this, but truly he did. He's been remarkable.
He's extremely well connected, and he knows everyone we'll call them famous. He told me story upon story, which blow my mind. But he's definitely a genius. But I don't know if anyone here knows the story. He went into Area 51 in let's say it was 1971, and walked out with Pithalum, the entity inside of him. And Pithalum, the entity, actually doesn't need to be in a physical ball or a body. She's been on Earth for billions of years, and she's here to help us. So very cool stuff. I've got lots of videos on that out there as well.
Yeah. And again, that's one of the reasons, I thought we're not just going to talk about a fascinating individual, but today more are coming to light on who you've made connections with, who you have some friendships, and you do have ongoing friendships with these people. I've seen David just hanging out with you. He just, hey, I'm here, But a remarkable individual, has done a lot for science and opened the doorways to many of the young people out there who could follow into his footsteps that may have the intellect that he had to be as creative as he was. And I'm sure if he could help somebody that way, he would do it anyway. But his work speaks for itself. The patents are out there. And, that's the gravy train for how people and children now growing up into science, the world of science, can take his information and be more productive from it if they have that certain ability.
Well, let me tell you the most interesting thing about David. He's had a fascinating life, just like John has, just like some of the other people I've been working with have. But he's been almost killed multiple times as well, yet he's still here. Coincidence?
Yeah,
I think not.
And it seems that there's a circus of a round table of a network that, for whatever reasons, but I guess they hear it in the voice, because I was privileged to have a few conversations with a few people that are no longer with us. And, Jordan Maxwell once said, what I think is most important, as it was told to him, it's not that you're talking about, it's the fact that nobody's still listening to you.
Yeah.
And he's always said that too, I think, in some of his lectures and his speakings.
Right.
But what a remarkable person he was, and a mentor to many of us. Me, yes, 100%. I still have emails on the computer that I want to actually take off and frame, because to me, it's a legacy, because I do nothing but do all this kind of stuff. Right. That's what I do. I write. I got boxes behind me of information and materials about people, their work, their lives, how I've connected with some of them, and how some were removed from me. And it's really funny how John had a lot of things removed. When we talk about, like, they isolate our numbers, they isolate our information, they isolate the facts of where we go and in direction, when they notice that direction is becoming too important, then there's an issue and suppression, and or we can't feed you out. But miraculously, if you fight them hard enough in ways, sometimes you can get a little bit corrected, but it never brings back the fact that they've taken everything, and you have to rebuild the structure from nothing again.
It causes trauma. So he's been shuffled around, moved around, told all sorts of things, witnessed to everything. He's never had stability or anyone he can trust, really. And it's a shame. It will rip your heart out. It's a heartbreaking story. My goal is really to help bring his story forth, okay, and to help him in any way I can. So he does have a brand new YouTube channel,
Yes,
John Fitzgerald Kennedy Junior, all spelled out as one. And he has a Cash App link that if you want to donate to him, he would greatly appreciate it, because he is living very lean and very carefully. And he wants to take this trip to Arlington. He should have a crowd as big as the Million Man March. Okay. This is a president's son that's been kidnapped, tortured, almost murdered, all this stuff. He should have the biggest crowd ever. And right now, when we do videos, it's maybe, 30, 50 people on there. It's shockingly low. And I know the numbers are being manipulated, and we're going to proceed anyway. You know what I mean? But shockingly low.
I went through that the other night, and I wasn't even off. I was still live. And behind the glass, I got a message, and it says 679 play views. And I'm looking in the chat room, and I'm trying to dictate what I'm seeing there. And I'm looking at the top of the screen like I am now. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I don't believe anything that I'm seeing that way now anymore. When there was 600 some people on it, and they were telling me that there wasn't, but they were sitting back just listening. But still, they were play viewing it. They were actually play viewing it. And within 24 hours, I think it was at 3,900.
Yeah.
Within 20, so I knew that I had that strong structure. And, maybe people just like Bigfoot and Dogman better. I'm just saying, I don't know. But they were there.
It's manipulation of the number. You can't look at that. What you have to do is keep proceeding with the story. Okay.
Right.
So many of the people I've worked with, I just started interviewing another one yesterday that hasn't been published yet, have been killed or potentially killed multiple times, but they're still here because they have a mission. And those missions are becoming really important at this time in history. It's all coming. Don't you feel things shifting and moving? Doesn't it?
Actually, no, I really do. For a better, but I think it's going to put everybody in a different. We're going to have to teach people how to get to the area of where they understand content and truth and disclosure. Because I do believe what you're saying 100% unequivocally. But I think a lot of people are going to have to be re-groomed into it. And I don't want to be a groomer. I don't want to be a handler. I want to be a person like you are, like what we do. The message is what's most important. And if it's only one ear that hears you that changed everything that day, let the one ear only hear it.
Yeah.
Because that's going to do something for tomorrow. It's going to build, it's going to help us build for tomorrow. And that's how we will help John. That's how we will help protect guys like David that's been out there where everybody in the world wants him to work for them. And now he's just, I can't do it no more. I get that. I understand it. But, he residents, to me, these people, residents, beautiful. They are the beauty of life because they're going to change it. Right. And I don't think a lot of people are going to be ready for what they're about to hear. And you know what? John doesn't hold back. He doesn't pull punches. Sometimes I do, and I got accused of this. Quit chocolate coating it or something of that nature, because they knew I wanted to come out all the way to say it, but I was trying to watch my lip. But again, when you take the right of the voice away from the people, you're actually not taking the voice, you're stopping the mind. And that was actually, I was allowing that to happen to myself. So whoever this was that was verbalizing that to me, dictating that message to me was 100% right.
Right.
You know, I guess from now on in the future of what I do, it's do or die. 100%.
Right.
Always say it and deal with the consequences next time. If I'm not there tomorrow, someone will bring me through a different page another day. And
Right.
if that's how I have to work. That's how I have to work.
I'm at the point when I do a video, I'll say what I want, or, maybe I won't say it, but it depends on who I'm with. I'll let it go full force. And that is shocking to many because they don't really realize what's going on behind the scenes. It's pretty ugly. Behind the scenes is ugly, but it has to come out.
Yeah.
So this one story has huge implications. All right. So what I've been telling people is it's a grassroots movement. We read the book, we educate ourselves, we share the book, we share the videos. We get people worked up. They start to believe that our government is not always there for our benefit. People should be outraged. When they read this, they should be outraged.
Yes. And you bring up a good point too, where President Reagan once said, and I'm not putting him anywhere, but he once said, you open your door after the knock and somebody on the other side says, hello, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
Run your ass off.
Yeah. Why do you think we're going to take our guns away?
Yeah. Well, hey, that's why I support here. I didn't do this today. Some military friends of mine who have this company, and I support it. It's called Loaded Gun Coffee, and I tell everybody that keep it loaded. The point is, I thought it was an ingenious name. The coffee was fantastic. It was better to go into Starbucks, and why would I support something that Bill Gates and his father had an influence to? When we look at the whole picture, China owns the acreage in America, and Bill Gates. I mean, it's sad, and I know we're going to see a different light. So John's going to be on with you pretty much like what does he do it once a week right now?
It's usually every Tuesday morning, or depends on where you're located. Tuesday, and we usually it's not scripted. Like we talk about whatever he wants to talk about. Like I have questions which I haven't gotten to for a couple of weeks. We did one this morning. He was on fire, so I didn't even get to introduce him. We just kept talking. It was amazing. So, if you want to go back to the first interview where we share the story, that could be helpful because you'll hear it right from his mouth. We were blocked and interfered. They kept taking the video down. It's pixelated. It's very poor quality, but I put it up anyway because, telling the story is traumatic to him. So I'd rather have him tell the story once or twice, and then we're building on people's, recollection from reading the book, and we're assuming they've read or watched those other videos. We're just building on it with different stories each week.
Right.
So today he told us a story about he had a girlfriend. She was in his tractor trailer with him. She was poisoned and literally replaced with a double right then and there, like a few hours after they left. I guess they were at a resort or a casino. And she ate something bad. She was poisoned. And they brought a double in, which they obviously had waiting. So this was a planned setup. And this isn't the first time. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. And, we just witnessed something like that about Kate Middleton, where we saw images of two different pictures of a chair, picnic type chair, park type chair put together right on not social media, right on the media, coming across the board from everybody. The fakeness was all through it everywhere. And people are now starting to look for those things like, what doesn't make sense here? How is it? And where is the real Kate? Right. And a lot of people think she, like her princess, the replacement was not. And John talks about that. He was friends with her. He talks about Lady Gaga being with her when her first song came on the radio. The real Lady Gaga, we may or may not say what we're seeing because these things have been so nefariously taking place for so long. The reality is not the reality we think it is.
True. Yeah. So many of the people that we've come to see as celebrities are no longer with us.
Correct.
They've either got doubles or they're CGI or clones in their place. And it's like, really apparent to me, like if I watch a show and I can say that's not even a chick, it's a dude, right? So easy to see anymore now that we know it's out there. So many of the models, the celebrities, you're going to be shocked to see that they're really men and vice versa.
Oh, that's been going. Yeah,
No,
and I've actually worked in movies. I truly have. Picture sets, craft services, picture cars. We have slogans for what everybody has to do, what their jobs are and affiliated with. And, the things that I saw back there of who they are and what you think you're dealing with,
yeah.
it's mind blowing. It's
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it truly is mind blowing. And what we've been fed to think, and for how long, they have been practicing to initiate the new changes into the rainbows of what we are looking at. They've been here. It's just now they're coming out with a different presence. Even in Pittsburgh the other day, Joe's wife was here preaching away to what it means to be the new norm of this particular type of idea that people have.
Yeah.
And again, I fight for the children. I'm an advocate for it. As a matter of fact, I had something to do with the sign that was put up in Pittsburgh that was like 60 by 22, I think. And it said, Pennsylvania has child trafficking here going on. And they tried to take it down. They couldn't take it down. So anyway, long story. But I do have that picture and I put it up. And people are like, how'd you get that done? And it wasn't that I did particularly. It was that a group of us were able to, get together and advocate with somebody that had influence, that owned a sign company and hated the world we're living in. Right. So we were lucky. We were fortunate, but it was an actual sign, real. The child trafficking goes on here, and it's nothing new. It's been everywhere for years and years and years. Underground, above ground. We have missing 411. We have abduction 911. We have David Politis. We have part of what I dictate is the abduction of 911. What does it mean? Where are they? Where are all the missing? What are they doing? Well, some people say, the aliens are taking them. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it is. Or maybe it's a networking of the satanic underneath. It doesn't matter. But I'm looking forward to seeing what John, how he goes into the future, revealing what he can, being so close, not within the involvement of it, but the eyewitnessing of it that has led to all this and what he can come out now and say. So if I was to say anything to him, I'm here because I love you. I love your story. I love to represent you, and I love to ride to see your father with your book. That's who Michael Anthony is. And I just want to make sure I relate that to you. But I understand your safety is more important than my own because your voice will be stronger than mine ever could be. Right. And I appreciate what you're doing, and I will protect you. That's all I can say.
When that ride happens, I will let you know the date, and maybe you can whip up a whole bunch of people to go down to Arlington. And you're probably like, 3 hours away, 4 hours away. But
that's not far.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be a nice ride, rain or shine.
Yep. Yeah, I'd love to have like a huge crowd to support him. He should be celebrated. He's clearly super intelligent. He's seen so much, but you can see how the trauma has affected him. It's really affected his health. And then he was telling this morning about a surgery he had where they tried to kill him. And, all this stuff, every time, this happens, it harms his body a little bit. So he's, not in the best of health. Now, King Smarty did send him some healing, like charms and things to wear, and it's really helped him, but he's not feeling great right now. So
yeah, well, I'm sorry that he's going through that, and as we get older, we all have to fight battles. His are much more immense,
Yeah.
much more immense. It's not
Yeah.
just about filling a little cricket, and whatnot. But I mean, I get it. I feel it.
Yeah.
I'm putting up a stone wall right now. Let me tell you, I'm not the guy I was 35 years ago. I built a wall one day. And this is not a joke.
Yeah.
I tore my complete rotor cuff out, and I used one arm to manhandle these 70-pound blocks into place, and the wall came out pristine. Now I'm 65, and I'm having such a difficult time with two arms trying to do this. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. When it comes to worth and dedication, you're only as good as you put into it to get to the point of completion, or the fact that you believe in yourself enough to go on and do what you do, like what we do right now, right here for people. And, I hope for greatness to come out of what we've done today. And I want to thank you from my heart to share what you have shared. Could I tell you I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't get to have him on? Sure. But you know what? What's more important is safety and truth. And that's fine. And again, maybe he'll listen to this. Maybe he'll open up a different insight to where he understands that there's more of us out there than them, and we can conquer it if he allows us into his life to be able to help him to do it.
Well, here's the deal. If we go to Arlington and I'm there, which I plan to be, I'll introduce you to him personally.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well, I would only expect a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Whatever he feels, it's his groove. I wouldn't want to rain on that in any way.
Yeah.
Because, in the future of what I know, and it's going to happen regardless in some way. That's the way I look at it. Every step I take in life reflects to something that's going to happen.
Yeah. He's a very compassionate person. And what I said to him today is all the pain he's gone through. I mean, there's a small silver lining. He's now compassionate to what, let's call it, the regular people are going through. The struggle financially. Like we're basically free-range chickens until we aren't, right? So we think we're free. We get to run around and do stuff until we can't. If you know what I'm saying.
Or until the bird flu spreads.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying until there's some control action going. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be stopped. It's going to be made public. It's going to be ugly. You probably know a lot of that already.
Yes.
But it's going to stop. So.
Well, I'm with you on that. I cannot wait for the day where we can wake up to a new norm of normalcy, where it returns, that things of love and light and respect just start to breathe and exist again, because we have the capability of it. I've always said to people, old men create war, young men fight and die for them for it. Yeah. For no apparent reason. It's always about ka-ching, the luck of the draw but they all get it from it. And so just to say it like that, but I know it's getting a little on. We've been on for quite a bit of time. Yeah. And I know that you just did a show with John coming into this. So you didn't get much of a break.
I had lunch. It was a big thing for me. But I like I said, I'm here. I'm very committed to helping him. Like I am a person of limited resources. But I want people to read the book. I want people to share the story. And if they're called to donate to his Cash App, that's all. I have no ulterior motive, no profit, no glory for myself. Yeah. Go to John's channel and join that and learn the story. Right?
And I would agree. I would agree. But you know what? Don't stop what you're doing.
I'm not.
You're going to probably get some negativity from it. I'm probably going to get some because I did this, and I don't really care, because worth is worth. It's determination. Yeah. It's how life is by what you put into it. Wherever it takes us, it takes us. And, as I said to you, and I want to bring this back up. Yeah, you get a date, it's going to happen. You let me know. I'll put words out. I have somebody that's actually in here right now who was in charge of the Pennsylvania bikers. It was former. And she's been in here, a young lady who was it was kind of her groove. And I know that we can put something really huge together from this side of Pennsylvania. Right. And when that starts to trigger, when the boys and girls will come out, they will ride. They will ride. They will protect him side by side. He will feel like the life he should have had.
That would be like, that's all I want. That would be fabulous for him. Thank you.
I think I could help participate in that with no problem. But I do want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Your knowledge of what you've learned and your sharing of some of the information. We could probably go on for hours with so much that he's already said in the past 5 months to you. But the best way for me to tell everybody that listens to America in Crisis, America Disclosing, or any of the other platform things I come up with, because they all delegate different things, where guess what? There's a commonality between them all. So why not do them? But, follow Sue Greenwald. I'll do some posting over the next couple days for you to be able to do that, to be able to find some of the live podcasts that she's done with John. And all I can say is, for everybody that listens and watches, we thank you for your support. Support is more important than any other monetary system in the world to me. Support. So do what you can to help us. Please share. Please share Sue's content and her information. And Sue, I applaud you for coming on. Thank you so much for allowing me into your life to help me with all this, because I felt it had to be done. And so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Have a pleasant day. Give my hellos to everybody and anybody that, I enjoy your content. I'll be watching more often.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Have a great day. We're going to cut out of here. So everybody, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the segment. As I always say to everybody, you don't know how something will turn out. So it's up to you to make it turn out well. Do your jobs. Have your own train of thought, whatever you learned from today. But the most important factor is, if you can do as little as to buy the book, or to get your libraries or local bookstores or coffee shops to get a copy of it, where you can go in and listen to it and watch it and, feel through some of the videos that are out there. Please do it. And on America Disclosing this afternoon sometime, because I got to go back to work. I'm on lunch, and I'll get them posted, and I think you'll love them. You all have a great night, and thank you for always watching. I appreciate your support, and always, I love you. Take care.